Well, how many of you out there enjoy Adventure Time? My daughter certainly enjoys Adventure Time, and in this video I will show you how I pulled off the Finn character in Lego, and particularly how I made his little headpiece. I've lost count of the times that my daughter asked me to make this minifigure, and in the end I gave in, and it was quite tricky to pull off that headpiece, so I'm going to have to put up that very boring warning that looks like this before we go any further in this video. And this really is a tricky little thing to pull off, but hopefully I will explain it so you understand. Okay, to explain where all the parts came from to make this very custom little minifigure. Just had blue generic legs. Believe it or not, that blue body is from a SpongeBob. Ninjago sword, we'll get rid of the sword, apparently Finn carries a sword. A backpack from a safari guy, and I painted it green. I think before that was mustard coloured. I think it was a while since I made this. And it had a police helmet which has got whatever these are on top of the ears. I don't know what they are, I don't follow Adventure Time. But my daughter was very particular in the way this looked, and it wasn't until I got her approval I had to stop recreating this. It took me a while to make this first one, I can tell you. The hands, I think, were from a Harry Potter minifigure, and I think my daughter just picked a fairly expressionless face for Finn. But in this video I'll show you my technique in doing this. When I made this one I made a lot of mistakes until I found a process that made the hot melt glue look like part of the Lego plastic, and I probably may do this differently to what other people do. And there's a close-up of hopefully what I'll be showing you to do in this video. The way I see YouTube is, it's always good to empower people with knowledge and help them make the cool stuff. Without telling other people how to do this, well, that's just a fail. My daughter is a massive Adventure Time fan, and she was the biggest critic of this when I made it. And in the end, she was very happy with what she's got, and to me, that's possibly all that really ever matters. Well, when you buy a tube of this stuff that you normally squeeze out with a little gun, it comes with one of these applicators. Well, we're going to use an applicator, and I'll show you why. Here's the applicator all by itself, and I'm going to cut a piece off here so I can slide the helmet down in here so it's a nice tight fit. And I've done a cut. Hopefully it's the right size. Ah, look at that. That little Lego helmet goes on there perfectly. That's going to help me hold this little beast while I make some changes to it. Well, of course we'll be using hot melt glue as part of this process, and sometimes people put on little cotton gloves in their hands. I'm big enough and old enough to know I don't need gloves. I know that this stuff is hot when you pump it out of the hot melt glue gun, and if you're not familiar with hot melt glue, it's worth just getting something and putting hot melt glue on it and just get used to the way it works. Get used to the time it takes to dry, get used to the fact of the way it can run like it is now, and you can actually, all the different properties of this sort of glue, you can actually have that play out in your favour. And part of the thing about hot melt glue is as it's drying, it'll get to a point where you can manhandle it into a shape, and we will possibly be doing that to get a nice little shape on this helmet. One thing you can do with hot melt glue is as it's drying, you can blow on it, and that will accelerate the time it takes to go hard because you're taking the heat away from the hot melt glue, and also it'll start to change colour when it's starting to firm up, and that'll be the sign that you can possibly come in with your finger and manipulate it like I am here. I can touch this now and a lot of the heat is gone. I'm not getting burnt, and I can start to do things with this for a while before it goes solid again. Well, let's have a go at putting one of the whatever it is on his head, on Finn's head, and I come with hot melt glue and I put a small amount on, and what I do is I take it away and I hold it upside down, and I'm fighting the thing drying in a sense. I'm trying not to have it spread out over the helmet. I'm trying to get it into a shape that I like, and it may take a couple of attempts to pull this off. It's actually not that easy, and you dare not touch it at the moment because it'll just turn into a big mess. I've got to wait for it to form up a bit. It's possibly about as boring as watching paint dry, watching this hot melt glue take off, but you've got to see this to understand the whole process. That's starting to dry. I've somehow pulled off something quite nice there at the start. It didn't need any manipulation, manhandling, I can get rid of the little hair at the top now. And it's soft. I can't really maneuver from that. That's much better than the one I did for my daughter. Let's see if I can repeat that on the other side. I think the trickiest part to all this is pulling it off the same on each side, and I just think I've epic failed on that side, but we'll see. And once again, I've got to keep manoeuvring this around, as boring as this looks. It's tricky to do this. The first one that I did took me many times to get any sort of result that my daughter was happy with. But, oops, don't touch that tail. It's still, I don't think I have to do that one again, but I'm showing you just how tricky this is. Let me just let that get to a point, and I'll show you how to go backwards with this and get back to a clean state. I can touch that now. It's not too hot, and I can just literally pull it off. And as it gets thinner and thinner, it gets cooler, and I'm sort of back to a clean helmet. Nice and fast, and we'll have another go. Well, I've just come in for my third attempt, and I think I've got it, I hope. Well, good enough for an example here, so to show you how I did this. And you can see how this piece is helping me do this. If I was fiddling around with this thing in my hand, it'd be a nightmare. That piece that I made is part of the secret to my processes. Well, there you go, that's what I've got. I think my daughter would actually be very happy with that. You could paint it up like that and be done. That'd be the simplistic way to finish this, and I think many people would be happy with that. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a knife down the side here to get a straight edge, and a knife down the other side, and I'll form it up. I will paint it, and then I'm going to do a little trick at the end so it all melds together and looks like one. Now this part is purely optional, but I'm going to come in with a very sharp knife, and one thing here is the glue is dry, and I'm just going to straighten up the edge there, and I'm being ultra careful. That's probably all it needs, and I'll go around and do the other side. Just while we're talking about cutting things in knives, make sure you use a quality product when you're using knives. Don't use blunt stuff. Blunt stuff you'll have accidents with. And most importantly, always cut away from you. Never ever cut towards you. Start cutting towards you, that's when you're going to start to have some serious accidents. Well, I'm very happy with the way this is looking so far. The next step I'm going to do is paint this, and then I'm going to do a little trick to make it all meld in and look like one. So I've just got some gloss white spray paint here. We don't do brand names on my channel, it's just gloss white spray paint. And it's a matter of doing this. Just putting that paint on, don't be too heavy. I'll just put a light coat on first, and I'll come back and I'll put some more coats on. Okay, I'm back inside of course. I've given that a number of coats of white paint. It looks a bit rough around the ears, as I'll call them. And what I'm going to do is one final trick to meld all this together. You've got to do this while it's all wet. Well, I do it when the paint's wet. If I touch that now, I'm going to get a whole clump of white paint on my fingers. Let's do the final step. You'll need a heat gun. Heat guns are like hairdryers on steroids. I've covered up the brand because we don't do brand names here. Let's do it. Now I'm going to talk over this heat gun, but this heat gun is actually, you get right up close to the top because, well, there's a great big element in there which is, see, glowing red. And what I do is I turn this around, don't get too close, that's the trick. I keep turning it. And what that's going to do, does a couple of things. It softens that hot melt glue again, and it will start to make it form and meld into that helmet. I'm trying not to overcook it here, probably just overdone it. Oops, I'm starting to fail. I'll back off a bit, but I'm starting to get a gist of what's happening here. It's looking heap better already, I hope. Let's take a look. Well, I've tidied up that headpiece and I've given it a bit more spray paint, and I tell you what, it's looking very good. In fact, it looks better than the first attempt that I've got, which is of course on my daughter's minifigure. And hopefully what's really important, and you can see this, is how the hot melt glue looks like it's part of the helmet. You can't see where it starts and stops, and that's all due to that little bit of heat gun process that I did. Well, there's Finn, a Lego Finn, and he's doing a beautiful job of holding the headpiece that I've just made. And as you can see, I think it's got better formed ears, whatever those things are on top, lumps. It's one of those little processes that, let's say if I went in and made a third one, it'd probably be even better again. And it really is a practice makes perfect sort of thing. You really got to be careful with the heat gun. You've just got to get used to the way the hot melt glue works. But if you get the skills up to manipulate Lego pieces like this, it's probably a very good thing to do, because then you can start making some very, very interesting pieces all by yourself. So I really don't need 2 fin head pieces in my life, and because this is such a very tricky thing to pull off, let's do something a little bit crazy. Well, the first part of the craziness is, if the first person to comment on this video writes the word first in big capital letters, they will win the Lego set that you can see on screen now. It's got to be capital letters to win, guys. Some people call that shouting. And first is spelt F-I-R-S-T. And if you would like that second fin headpiece that I made, it's not the minifigure, it's just a headpiece, just leave me a comment, tell me you're an Adventure Time fan, and let's say if somebody didn't pick off that prize which you can see blurred in the background, well, who knows, I may send it out to you with that little tiny headpiece. And within the first week after upload, I'll find a winner. I'll go and peruse their channel to see if they've been good to me, and if you've been good to me, I will be very good back to you. Well, how about that? That was a bit different, wasn't it? You didn't expect that, did you? It'd be very interesting to see what the first comment is on this video. I'll have a giggle. If you've lasted this long, I thank you for doing so, and if you enjoyed what I've showed you here, well, I hope it helps you. It's always about helping other people on YouTube, and it's something I like to stick to. Okay, bye for now. Well, I bet you there'll be people saying, "Oh, SpongeBob's not blue, he's yellow." Well, if you got this minifigure, he is blue. And that was a piece I swapped out. I put a piece which had a print on it, and that's where I got the body for the fin that I made.